Okay.
Yeah, and start. I mean, hey, drop us some astrology, Charlie. What's going on? What's the astrology right now?
Yeah, let me share. If anybody is into astrology, they can also share what they see as well. This is gonna be a group thing. But yeah, it's been really interesting. So we're going into, here's the sun in Gemini, and we're going into, actually, Gemini is a time of more of communication. It's an air sign. So it's a lot of sharing information. It's where also the house of brothers and sisters, but it's also school. But usually like elementary type level school, not necessarily like higher education. And so it's just sharing knowledge. Communication is major. So like the news, media. So we're just entering it. That means we're kind of moving from Taurus energy of that really earthy, very like, like delicate chocolates is what I imagine, right? Because Taurus is all about the taste and food. And so we're moving to more of an air sign, right? So it's more of a, where then this is the sun. So it's getting more to being more lighthearted, I guess, in a way, right? Or being more sharing information. And then what's interesting here is that the North Node in Taurus has been retrograded, and today, like within hours of today, it went from retrograde to forward. That means we're moving, like the planet too. It's like what's called, like, everybody's got like spiritual mission, and so at this point, it's a lot of like going back to being earthy and grounded. And so we just did like a revisit. And I think a lot of us probably with this like blood full moon in Scorpio last week, probably went through a lot of personal stuff. And so now like the energy is like, okay, now since we reviewed things, let's go back now and focus on being earthy and being grounded and appreciating, the material things, the physical things that, we come here to enjoy. And then the moon is moving into Pisces here, back here on the other end. So like the whole group here is really interesting. You got like the sun is like leading the charge here, coming out into Gemini, but we got a couple of planets here kind of following back. But here the moon is in the back here, hanging out in Pisces here, which is more that watery, idealistic, dreamer, no boundaries, like you and I are the same, unity, versus like the sun is trying to like talk about polarity, and let's talk about like the difference between light and dark, and why do we do things, and what drives us to communicate to each other. So it's a very interesting pull. And then in between you got the Mars and Venus, and Venus is the feminine energy, is kind of like ready to like do things, right? That impulsive Aries is go to war. And the Mars energy,
all the feminine in the house. Holla to all the feminine in the house.
And then the Mars energy is like, wait, hold on, I'm still dreaming about my dreams still, and still like trying to like have an idealistic point of view about things before we move forward. So it's usually detriment for Mars, but it's a good time for us to like rest and kind of go, because once we go into Aries, that's our house. Like we're gonna be moving 100 miles per hour for like days. So in a way, like we're kind of dealing with rethinking things, or thinking about things like in a bigger term, so that when we can come back into our Mars energy, we'll be ready to like hit the road running, right? So that's where the energy is at. And we're also at a Mercury retrograde. So I forget the range, but I think it goes up to mid-June. So things right now is all about reviewing things, and it's very much in theme with what's going on right now, with us kind of rethinking and making sure that we're grounded and also financially stable. But the idea of values and currency, so we're having conversations about currency all the time, is kind of where the motive energy is at. So that's where everything's at right now.
That chart is like so scary looking. I just want to spin it, bro. Like I don't understand it. I just want to spin it. Is anybody else with me on that?
It's super heavy, right? It's like if everybody's riding on that like turning, how people like get on that thing and they spin, like the whole crew's over on this side, so it's a little bit wobbly. But we're gonna go like right together, right, to the danger zone.
What's it called? Is it merry-go? Adam, what's it called? Merry-go round? What's the thing?
I mean, that's what the horses thing are, but like the thing you spin, right?
No, the one, the playground. The one
Yeah,
we like jump
merry-go-round.
on. That's merry-go-round, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Here, let me invite you guys. Unmute yourselves.
Yo, what's up, Indy? How's it going? I'm so happy to be here.
Really quickly, can you just introduce yourself real like as succinctly as possible? I mean, I will just add this in here that just Saleha is awesome. I got to interview her for my podcast that's focused on South Asians, and she's an advocate for South Asian, kind of like just South Asians, and she has a crazy amazing story, like support, like finding her own journey of freedom as a woman from her like cultural background, but also she's a badass. She's facilitated companies, like she's facilitated businesses, and she's now focused on supporting women and creating sisterhood. So, but did I miss anything?
No, thank you so much for that intro. Yeah, my name is Saleha. Way to remember my name is the Italian or Spanish word for the sun is sole, and think of a happy sun, like ha ha ha, Saleha. Yeah, I love that. I'm happy to be here. I am an artist, an activist, and a serial entrepreneur, and currently moved to Los Angeles from Budapest, Hungary, to pursue this really big mission and dream that I have full time, which is to create South Asian sisterhood. We're 1/3 of the world's femme population, and very separated from the wisdom that of our ancestors in our land. So really focusing on that. And I also have I have 9 nieces and nephews. So I love, Indy, that you like brought me into this, that you're involved in educating and creating activations for children. I'm very, very excited about that. I'm fully invested in this, and however I can support it, I'm here.
Yay. Oh, thank you so much, Saleh. Adam, I love you. We'll get to you. Same with you, Jackie. I love you too. Thank you for tuning in, both of you guys, and the AI. Thank you, Jennifer's AI, and everybody else who watches this and tunes into this. Really quickly, I just want to bring you guys up to speed, and kind of also create transparency around what's been happening in our space. The pressure and the feeling of doing something for the wisdom and getting it done by June 14th and also our momentum was kind of, it was feeling very it didn't feel good. Like it didn't feel like it was like we were going to be able to show up with authenticity for the kids. We also don't have a group of kids set, right, to come yet, teenagers, and that also was kind of difficult to realize. And so we're kind of at this like interesting precipice. Do we postpone it? That's an option. Do we postpone it later in June and just do it on a farm rather than and something smaller and not and just cut a lot of costs that wisdom has? Like that's some thought process too. Do we do it later in the summer? Is that something an option? Yeah, and I want to hear your guys' feelings on that, Adam. Like, what is your perspective? Like, we have that pitch deck now. Saleha, we're going to pop that up in a moment. Maybe Charlie could pop that up. It's okay. That's kind of secondary. It's more like, what can we all give in the next like month to make this happen? Like, what's our commitment to, like, also kind of defining that for us? Because essentially we're all sponsors for this, right? Events, and trying to get it for foster kids, for foster teens, trying to get it for lower income. I hate saying that word, but trying to get it to the kids that we're going to benefit the most from this. Like we have to commit something, like something. Unfortunately, we can't commit. Like Saleha and me and Adam and Mick, some of us can connect physically, but some of us, like, how can we commit every week to make this happen, to really make it happen? So I'm throwing that out on the table for all of you guys. What are your thoughts, feelings? How can we make this happen, even as a pilot? Something with a pilot as well. Yeah. Oh, Tizzle's here. Tizzle too. Thank you, Tizzle, for tuning in. I don't know what you heard, but basically, like, we're just hitting like I'm, at least personally, I can share, Charlie can share himself, but I'm feeling unsupported. in getting something done, like logistically, you know, and just like burned out from it.
I was sharing earlier this, no, wait, it's a new week. Last week, with Charlie, like, I feel like we should have assignments or roles, so like things are delegated, because I know like you and Charlie and I believe, you know, Mick, they're like all of y'all are doing it, but it's like I'd be down to do things too, especially like I just got into summer. So it's like, if it's about, yo, like I need you to rally people, I need you to get commitments, I need you to get this, like I'm down to be delegated, or to like, even if it's a matter of like brainstorming, like what is something that I know I can follow through on and make sure comes to fruition. Like not just this willy-nilly, like, oh yeah, I can do this, and then it never actually happens. But I think that would be really important so that you're not feeling burnt out, because compassion fatigue is real. And a lot of people don't talk about that. But when you're doing this type of work, it gets to you. And the fact that we have such a solid idea, such really like people who are committed, I think it's like, whether we can write out like, yo, I can guarantee you I can do this, or if it's like, you know, this is what we need, and then we sign up potluck style. Like,
it feels like that though, where it needing to share like, what do we need, because we don't know that as a group right now, so that people can sign up potluck style.
So Charlie, pull up the pitch thing, and pull up the we started playing with this thing. And Tizzle, thank you for your comments and notes, and definitely we'll change more, we'll evolve the language more elsewhere on that. But like pull up that elemental aspect when we started diving into like, okay, let's look at what we need from elements. Like what are the right?
Indy, can I ask a question before we jump into the kind of the committees, or like what we need? Can you share more about the feelings around like the friction that experiencing right now, whether it's like where we're at right now, like can you share more around the friction that you're experiencing right now that you want to talk through today?
Oh man, I appreciate that. So I work with teenagers and young adults like almost every day. And I'm also working on projects with them, and some of them are from like the inner city and Oakland and Los Angeles. And the urgency of what's happening with them and what they're feeling, I'm feeling it a lot. It's like I'm hearing it, and I'm trying to hold space for them and be positive for them. And the urgency for this is like, I'm feeling it. Like it's like it's building up, and I know this is a really powerful salve for what they're experiencing. And I don't like my sense of urgency. It's not resonating with everyone else the same way, right? We all have our different parameters and everything, and like, so I don't need I don't need like, I'm so tired of like the performative, you know, aspects of getting this stuff done. Like I'm ready to be all in, and I'm calling on all of us, whoever can, to like be all in this, because it can support us as well. That's obviously clear that it can, because not too many people are solving the problem. But also like it's for me, it's healing to show up here. I wish I could show up like this every day with you guys. This is healing for me, so I can also show up for the kids and from the teenagers that I show up for, right? And I'm getting burned out in those spaces because I'm showing up alone, and the systems are not supporting me in doing what I want to do either. Like I'm doing it volunteering. I'm not getting paid to do the stuff I do. And if I showed up to get paid, they wouldn't let me do what I do, because I talk about astrology and I talk about metaphysics, right, with them. And that's why they want to talk to me. So yeah, that's just where I'm kind of at. I'm just feeling like the pressure that this is really, really important. And not just for the kids, but also for me and for us.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that too. I think where we kind of came in at it before, like we were thinking about a certain time. And I think right now, thinking back now, is like I think if we had more time to develop this, like I think we would really get to come to a place where we can do a lot more for the kids and develop it further. Because when we first started, it was an idea, and from there, like as we started to ground things out, we kind of realized, okay, like this is a pretty big deal, but it takes a lot to kind of pull this together. And I think just the timing is just adding a lot of pressure because now this is like one of the first iteration of like the challenges that we're getting, and we're realizing where the intentions there, the people are showing up, but maybe the timing is not right because it just doesn't. It will be all pressure to do something that may not be like the best space that we can really come from. So I think maybe thinking of like rescheduling it to kind of be a little bit, I think I would say like even like a prototype level too, because I think the idea of like the dome could be like in a year from now where we've done a few of these. But I like the idea of like prototyping so that we can support teachers like both you, Indy, and Ms. Sizzle, right? Like they are, or Mick too, right? You guys have students who want something else, and if we can bring something that's like, I would say like jerry rigged together so that kids are showing up and that's just the beginning. And then from there, we can kind of add the pieces slowly rather than trying to make something grand and like the kids don't show up, then it really like, kind of defeats the purpose of what we're doing. So, that's kind of some conversation I think, we're getting at. And I think we're at a good position, and I don't feel like anything's gone wrong, but more like, how do we give ourselves more space to really breathe life into this so that it can become something sustainable for all of us?
Yeah. I mean, and to add to that, because of that conversation with Emma last week, I think we really we had a very grounded conversation in looking at the kind of organizational structures and things that need to be in place. And even like when I reached out to the birdhouse recently, and we're like, oh, we probably need insurance, and like a lot of little things that we just don't really have in place yet. That take some time to get in place, an organization. So yeah, if we're talking about like 3 weeks out, it's like becomes extremely stressful. I mean, I'm not even done with school yet, so I've been like basically these meetings are the only time I have these meeting times to be dedicating to this project until school's out in like a week or two. So yeah.
Then I wanted to also ask because, but I'm very much a guerrilla style art educator. So, and I know that's not always the way to do it, but that's how I have forged my way. Like, for example, I talk about astrology and all these things at Cal State Long Beach, but it's like, I make my students very aware, like, this is not anything that the university agrees with. This is not in the syllabus, but like, I'm infusing this because I know it's going to help you. And they're like, yeah, give us more. But in the past, I have had, like, I'm in Los Angeles, so there's this giant park called Kenneth Hahn Park. And I have had, like, students meet up there on the weekend. It's like, yo, we're going to do a nature hike. And, like, been 20 students deep. I know we're doing more, but I'm just mentioning, like, throwing out Kenneth Hahn there because I didn't ask anybody, like, can I do this? I just literally showed the fuck up and did it. And, had my little phone with my like herb identifier and had students like grabbing things and just told them to be safe. Like, iNaturalist was the app that I was getting them to use because I learned about that at the Natural History Museum. And so I'm just wondering if a space like Kenneth Hahn or like even just parks in general, because like I've seen so many things happen at parks, and is it like once it gets to a certain capacity, then you have to get all these other things? Or that's something I wanted clarity on, because my guerrilla art educating I know is not the proper way. So I wanted to ask about that.
I really love the idea of a park parks are very doable.
Yeah.
You can reserve them and the city can provide a permit to hold an event there. I also am just listening to all of the discussion here, and I'm wondering if we've had a conversation where each one of us has kind of really clearly laid out what our strengths are, because that would help decide what kind of role we can play each one, and then going into duties and delegations and things like that. But it would be really important to see what strengths each of us bring, and then create an organizational chart on to understand, okay, like, do we need any other role, or do we have all the roles covered? For instance, we need a community builder, we need a partnerships head, we need someone who's coordinating logistics, we need someone who's gonna do media. That means photo, video, because we need all of this to get out there. We need someone who understands legal and working with the city. So there's a different, from everything that I'm hearing here, there's a lot of different needs, but yeah, I'm just wondering if we've done that exercise or not.
No, we haven't. We've kind of worked everybody with, like, everybody's coming kind of different times and shared their experiences and where they're coming at it. But yeah, like, we're really at the stage where, like, it's starting to, like, how do we ground this out to where we can actually, make this, and even when we first came at it, like, I think now looking back, I think there's a way to integrate both of what Ms. Dizzle said about regarding, like, the guerrilla version of it, right? Where we can have it where we just need, like, once a month, maybe do something like that, gather teens and get kind of community. And going to also Jackie's conversation, chat here about a community of teens, we talked about having, like, teen ambassadors, right? Like, actually group of council of teens, right? The idea that we want them to actually start organizing themselves too, as they are working with us, so that there's a natural already space for them. Discord will be a great place, but, like, getting them to really have the conversation in parallel with us. So when we come together, like, they've thought about, like, what does it look like if you could build your own school that is taught by kids and masters that are, kids choose, right? Like what if we define the idea that, like, we're actually just in service of the kids, and they're telling us, like, what is it that will really help them become who they need to be. We're just coming from, like, here's some experiences that we gathered, like, how do we find that balance too? So that's why I feel like maybe, like, we can choose, like, every half a year we do, like, the bigger events, right? When we gather all the groups of communities that we found over in LA in the beginning, and then have, like, an event, every 6 months, and that could be, like, the big dome experience, or like a really cool farm location, but in the beginning, just a park, once a month.
So there are some really cool private high schools and middle schools in LA and Orange County. Not so familiar with Orange County, but in LA, actually, the school that I went to, Pilgrim, will be very, very open to do a sponsored event with like this, because they're open to having their kids who are, so private school, they're coming from a more of a affluent background, kind of then coming together with others that are invited. I think that model can also be entertained, where part of the community is sponsoring the other part of the community and allowing the kids to kind of mingle and come in to one another. So that's something to keep in mind. I think revolving from school to school is also something. I don't know if schools will support it, but just just going to the park nearby the school, doing it guerrilla style, like Tizzle said, totally works and is effective.
Yeah, and I just listened to a great podcast about Indigenous science, and how, like, partly what we're doing is, having Indigenous science. This is kind of what we're doing here, is sharing Indigenous science, and so being at a park, being on a farm, might be more effective than doing it at a Wisdom at first. Like, maybe it is important for us to actually tap into literally the natural elements.
So I do want to celebrate where we're at right now, because Indy, thank you for bringing this up, and Charlie, thank you for bringing up this friction. because in my mind, like this is like us discovering this friction is the point. Because if we're trying to find if this is a pilot, a prototype that we're then trying to find a way to scale and get these going to other places, we're the ones that are going first and trying to figure out what is this like. And so sharing that friction is part of the process, because the other side of this, we're going to find alignment and create something awesome. And I know that. There's a comment that Jackie put in there that's been just sitting in my mind since she typed it in there, which is around the decentralization piece. And I think it might help me to get more clarity with the group of when we do kind of close our eyes and picture, well, what are we decentralizing? Right? Because the vision that's been painted so far has been, we have this big event at this big venue, get hundreds, thousands, like we get a lot of people together, and it's big, like it is a production. And so when we think of replicating that in different places, I mean, I wasn't on the last call, but you're bringing up insurance, you're bringing up these things, right? If someone's going to replicate this in the future, they would have to be going through the process that we're going through right now. They're going to experience that friction, and we're literally being pioneers where we experience the friction and we're going to sit with it together. But yeah, because I do want to share, I think everything happens for a reason, and this same exact thing happened with some high school students recently, where we planned a giant event. Sorry, we didn't plan a giant event. It turned into 300 people coming together, and it was the high school students facilitating it. And we thought we had this like amazing model. We're like, all right, we can now bring this community building approach to all these different schools. And thankfully the students spoke up, and they're like, I have a lot of friction when I envision like where to even start for like, it was a lot. And so what we ended up doing was breaking it down, where they ended up having smaller community conversations like they did it in different forms. Some brought it to an elementary school, some did it with a classroom at the high school, some just brought friends together. And what it kind of evolved into was them having kind of micro conversations, like in a classroom or like with a smaller group of people, which was way easier, like to wrap your head around for a kid to be like, all right, I'm going to connect with a teacher, and I just need a teacher to say yes. And we're going to get a group of 20, 30 students that are going to go do this activity because the teacher says we're going to do it. And then afterward, you raise your hand and you're like, all right, who's interested in doing this more? And so now they have essentially like an environmental club at their school, starting with this approach. But the students were basically like, we need to break it down into micro goals, like break it down into like micro things, so you have a feeling of a sense of accomplishment. Because we're talking about this bit, like I feel you, Indy, on the like, you see the potential and the like the need for something like this and wanting to make it massive. It building the massive thing requires a lot of smaller micro wins, and all the ideas that are coming up are just example like of the park, like that's just one of like a lot of different examples of micro wins that can prototype, like you said, Charlie, prototype the big thing that we want to be scaling. But I think it's awesome that we're learning that this big thing that we've talked about, we're now experiencing friction around, well, what would that actually look like to do? Because all theory, all ideas are like good in our minds, and then when the rubber hits the road and like putting them into practice, like this is the fun stuff that we learn about. And so leaning into like, this is the discovery process that I invite us to lean into, because it's uncomfortable and it's going to just bring about a lot of anxiety if we're trying to like fix that discomfort rather than sit with it. So,
and thank you, Adam. And I'll add something on there too. And I'm glad that there are those of you that are on here. I really, really value and cherish all of you individually. And I know you guys deeply, all of you deeply, you know, in a different way than everyone else knows. And I this is really important to me, coming from the background I come from, especially what I've been studying the past few years. how can you guys, you don't have to answer this right away, but how can you feel like you own this? Because I'm not interested in owning this by myself, and Charlie is not interested in that. Yeah, I don't know the how question, but like I'm there's nothing, I have nothing to, I don't even know how to like go into that, but like, yeah, how can you guys own this? Like, what will give you that ownership so you guys can show up with ownership of this? Because this is not, I don't see this as a volunteer thing. You know, this is not volunteering. I'm not interested. I love volunteerism, but from the metaphysics of volunteerism, like, I want all of us to succeed. I want all of us to thrive, to be abundant doing this. So how will you feel like you own it?
Yeah, this is bringing me back to the organizational chart of what you're putting together. Are you going to do it as a NGO? And if yes, then what type of role and duty does everybody take? There can be equity divided for everyone. There can be a whole plan with, future sponsorships and how would profit and whatever revenue we would make, what percentage of that would we put to new projects, what percentage of that would the equity holders could take out. Like, all of that needs to be structured. I mean, so
Saleha, we also
Yeah.
have somebody deep in the crypto space and NFT space with Jackie, and definitely there's something real. We can also be very creative in how we right away start to build equity. Like, we can create a currency that we can distribute with all of us. I mean, I've been meditating on this a lot. Like, how do we literally, like, you guys all just showed up today. We're gonna give you 500 hard coins. You could put it in your bank. You can I can give Charlie some, and Charlie can give me an astrology reading. Like, just showing up to these meetings, all of us, we should be getting rewarded. Like, it just makes sense to me. Pun intended.
I would love to jump in super quick if I'm invited to do so. So I've been listening, and in my mind, I'm like, well, we should just have a DAO. We should have a DAO. Let's do a DAO.
Yeah.
And it's not the answer for everything, but I will share. I never actually got to show you guys this. I meant to do this, but I didn't. So my business partner and I, we did a program with the Salvation Army and a local ski instructing club. And we did classes with the Salvation Army kids where they learned how to make an NFT. They used their own artwork and stuff to do that. And then they turned that NFT in as the access pass for these ski lessons. The things you guys are going through, we did not think of ski insurance. We didn't think, I mean, there were so many things we didn't think of. And, literally, thank God we got through the whole project without anyone breathing down our necks. It was small enough where, it didn't pop off right away. But we had this whole idea to do this like kids DAO and to like have an online community. So ski seasons in Buffalo is only a few months a year. So I'm like, Charlie, I loved your astrology reading in the very beginning of today, because it's just literally spot on of so many things I'm going through, like things that I had started 6 months ago that just have crumbled before my eyes in the last week, literally. And it was like, didn't even have time to process, like just had to keep going. And now I'm here sitting with all of you, reconnected with Indy a few days ago. I've always wanted to do something with Indy. Actually, the first time we talked was years ago about putting a school together for teens or some type of center and stuff. So I'm really, and Indy, I want to say too, that video you shared of the mental health virus through like TikTok and how these, I'm noticing that too. I'm seeing a real urgency to kind of get to kids and circumvent maybe diagnosing themselves with things they, may or may not have or may have different answers to. So I think, there's an old adage that kids spell love D-I-M-E. So whatever we do is going to be valuable to them. And I think if we start with an online community or something where we can introduce this crypto, do some lessons, I would be 100% down to educate anyone along the way there, and then just kind of get them in, and then maybe decentralize how they want to do these things in their own city. Each one of you is obviously, more than capable of leading in your own way, a group or a Discord channel or anything, but maybe just organizing around that first could be just a good way to start getting things on paper, so to speak, or on screen, however we do it. But that's my 2 Satoshis. So there we go.
And I do want to acknowledge Saleha. Thank you for bringing up something that obviously is very triggering to me, is like the corporate space, but it's important, right? It's important to have structure. It's a very important yang feature, you know, and we definitely need that. And like, I encourage you, like, and oh, by the way, Charlie did that astrology thing. I hope every time we meet, somebody, one of us shares a meditation or something beforehand. I encourage y'all. Let's do that every time. I mean, yeah, Charlie can do the reading every time, but I also, all of us have something beautiful to share. Maybe we're learning something new. Let's always make these things regenerative. Like our meetings be regenerative, ideally, right? That way we show up for the kids regeneratively. Duh. But Saleha, do you like? Is that something you would at least for now? We could give you hard coins. I got bazillions of hard coins. I can like give you a bunch. You could buy a lot of shit with that. I'm telling you. Like if you can help with some of that organizational strategy, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to help. And yeah, I'll
Paperwork, paper magic, right? I'd love someone to do paper magic.
I mean, so the first question when it comes to setting up an organization, corporation, is what's the investment from each one of you for the next 5 years? Before we set anything up, we need to talk about everybody's exit strategy. Are you trying to set up like a huge foundation that runs and then goes into, you know, global work? Are you trying to like, with the pitch deck, when I looked at it and I was like, oh, there are healing modality workshops. Yes, I would love to develop like different healing modality workshops for teenagers, preteens. I am so connected and I understand this problem so freaking well. So for me, my goal would be like, okay, I want to be part of this and then build all of this coursework, journeys, education, put my name on it, and then have people reuse it through this foundation and license them, give them the rights to use it in other. That would be my kind of the exit strategy in this. So each one of us need to think about, what do we want to provide? What are our highest skill levels? And then what's our exit strategy? I think if we can, or if we can start like a Google Doc shared with all of us, where all of us can drop just those 3 things. All right, what are my highest skills? What's my exit strategy? Maybe we can also put like, okay, how much time do I have? Depending on that, we can think about a model, and I will be more than happy to help you out. And Jackie, if you can help us set up a DAO, that would be great too. I'd love it to be a DAO.
I was going to ask how many people actually had interest in that, and next week, time permitting, like depending on how you guys actually work out, you know, if there's a physical, I will say too, it's unlikely that I would be able to get to LA that weekend, just for, I know I've kind of been in on these meetings, but if anyone was interested, I could arrange a meeting of just like, you know, bare bones, what you need to start a DAO, and then, you know, poll the group and see if that's how, because you can just start, you know, with an LLC through Wyoming. And we could go through all that together. This could be something we do with the teens. That was always my idea for the kids DAO, was that we all did it together and all learned while doing it. But depending on how serious you want this to be as like a, you know, revenue generator or anything like that, maybe we don't all want to get on multi-sig wallets and just do it through crypto, but lots of options in between. So we can definitely talk about that more if anyone's interested on my end.
Definitely.
I definitely am.
Yeah. And also from the principal standpoint of, because over the next 3 weeks, well, basically by the end of June, like my big work assignment is how we create a more or less like a playbook that kids can use to create their own gratitude-based environmental impact clubs. And the forming structure of how you bring people together, we are literally, all the stuff we talk about, like there's stuff that is going into like, and this is just given to kids. This is not this is just creating and sharing. And so, yeah, personally would love to learn more about even just like principles of how DAOs work. I will, so to your question, Indy, about like what we need to be owning it, Um, I so don't have the exit strategy thing is something that for me is triggering, because I view all of this stuff as like, this is just like, it's just life for like, and I'm just spinning, this is how I feel. And so, but for me, it does feel never ending. Like it feels like this is just the continuous life journey. And so what for me, I know that when it doesn't exist, I will still be engaged, but things get extra just extra engaging when there's almost like a timeline. So think of it, so it's what we're experimenting now with the students is, all right, you don't have this never ending club that never like, when do you say like, we are successful, we've done a good job, to kind of bake in like, all right, we're doing just 30-day pilots. And here's the goal of this pilot. Here's the goal of these 30 days. And we mark success by the end of that in whatever the alignment, the friction that comes out of those 30 days. But so for me, having some type of time project, even if it's a pieces of a larger initiative, for me, that is extra helpful. And yeah, and I'll share because from a business model standpoint, the business model that I'm currently grappling with Onora is, because we basically have a theory of change that's how do we improve our environmental impact while leading with love rather than fear? Like, how do we build on the positive and lead with gratitude and curiosity rather than looking for problems everywhere? And so we then just have a bunch of different research projects whereby we're looking at where we're putting theory into practice. And people are like, all right, we're going to be a pioneer and figure this out. And so kind of approaching it like a PhD lab right now. We're finding people that are invested in what you are researching, but then also commercializing on the back end, because it's the same thing as like, because what we're creating the building blocks to commercialize is a distributed knowledge sharing network. You have people that are engaging in their community and they're sharing with one another. Well, then how do you have one community share with another community? And so that's all an idea. But the similar, like, I think all of this is the same. Like, I don't view any of this as separate. Like, it's all the same. We're like, so that's, I guess, the way I view from like a business model of where this evolves is like, we have a theory of change and how are we deploying that in as many avenues as possible. And it's at this stage, it's I kind of find it funny to like be like, oh, this is what it's going to be like at the end, because it's like we're learning so much literally every week. But at the same time, for funding, people don't fund drug discovery labs if they don't know that there's a certain drug on the back end that you kind of sell the vision. Anyway, I'm talking a lot, but that's
Adam, on a metaphysical level, your soon-to-be baby is going to be a cosmic labyrinth wizard. So I think that's a exit strategy you got, like, you know, metaphysically.
Oh, it's the best blessing in disguise ever, because I have an eagerness to be involved in everything. Like and I'm wearing way too many hats with all the different, basically like school clubs that are now trying to bring this into their schools. And again, I'll volunteer. And so the fact that that baby is coming at the start of the academic school year is, we have a timeline of by July 1st, because we don't know when baby exactly is going to come, but like July 1st, I'm like, we need to get all this stuff out. And so it's giving me this sense of clear, like, boom, this is what you got to get done.
Nice. Mick, I haven't heard from you.
Yeah. So you, in terms of your question about how to own it, I mean, for me, it's very similar to what Adam was saying, is that like it's kind of like just tied into many life goals, and I don't necessarily see it as a final kind of product or anything like that, but really just walking the path with you guys. But I also understand the need for the structure in order to like kind of achieve these milestones, right? So I mean, I managed events at the UCLA Art Science Center for a few years, and I feel like it's actually something that I'm really glad that all these things have come up, because what would happen a lot of times, or a lot of this friction has come up in the conversation of this session and last, because I started to get the sensation that I was getting when I was at UCLA, where we would put on all these events, but there wasn't a lot of like structure about like how to organize it before it came and then assess it after it happened, you know? So, I mean, I think a big part of the ownership for me is feeling that there's a full expansion of creative ideas and brainstorming, and then being able to edit that down into a few kind of like really tangible channels that we can manage within a timeline that feels comfortable. So, I mean, I think we kind of had like a ton of meetings, and which were very, very helpful, and we learned a lot from each other. But it's like the once a week on Zoom, again, it is hard to get that momentum. So that's why I think we're at this point where like, oh well, the SOILstice event, maybe if we had all a lot more time to focus on it, and not just, you know, once a week, we would be kind of like nailing down more specifics right now. But, you know, at this point, we really have to think about, you know, what can we do as a prototype, I think, that can kind of fulfill some of those, that can highlight some of the strengths that each one of us has, so that we can kind of showcase it without having to go into overdrive to make it happen, right? Yeah, so I mean, in terms of like what I bring to say, what I would like to kind of see happen with this is, you know, very much serving teens and youth in general, and I mean, this relationship between the environment and creativity and self-expression as an extension of our relationship to understanding of nature and the elements, that's all kind of like what I do in multiple forms, right? So I just want to bring that again to this project. So yeah, but starting small seems more comfortable to me as well.
I like to share too that it feels kind of like the idea that we're incubating ourselves actually as entrepreneurs who are really building our own business, but then we're collaborating together in a bigger format, because the bigger mission is re-education really, or the idea of sharing wisdom again, more collectively. And I think instead of imagining one structure to house us all, like one vehicle, actually, if we imagine more like we're caravanning, you know, businesses together that are in a community together. So we're growing ourselves as a business and entrepreneur, because, you know, we're incubating ourselves to reflect back on the next generation that they're also going to have to think that way, right? Not to think about going to work for someone right away, but rather being, you know, self-sufficient, finding ways that they can be, you know, getting paid for the gifts they have, and then from there building whatever they need to, if they need a bigger team or whatever. But, you know, so for us too, like, you know, because I think we've, you know, it's funny because all of us come from different levels of the system, and we know the system, but what's happening here is like the reason we haven't grounded anything out truthfully is all of us have been traumatized by the system. And the idea of decentralizing it is so hard sometimes, because like you decentralize everything in your life, you know, and so we're kind of like, what's the minimum structure that we need to be like a collective, but like be sovereign in our own self, where like, because too many times you hear like, I think we all get triggers as like healers, like, oh yeah, I try to leave that partnership and it was just trauma all the way through. So why would I want to get into the partnership? But if we were like, because I've been in that incubator tech space, you know, and I think they have great ideas, but like the way they do it is very toxic, you know, because it's not self-sustaining. It's actually the Shark Tank mentality, where it's like you take the best of the worst, and then you like get rid of the rest. Where, you know, the idea of like what happens from what we teach, you know, or what we share here is these children grow up to be like self-sufficient and invent something that they can support themselves and society, because they solved the problem for us, you know? And then from there on, we want to make sure they're incubated correctly to make sure that they can support themselves the same. Here are the legals you need to know, you know, but like, here are some other things that you need to know about your business, because we're all gonna have to bring our own experience, but then like have to like go, okay, I think this is an old model. Can we redo this, right? So I think that's what's really exciting right now is like, we're all teachers, we're all leaders, we're all self-sustaining beings, but like, how do we come together now as a collective and then pass this on to the next group? So that's why I like the idea of the Council of Teens, because it will reflect back, you know, how we all communicate, because they might be teaching us something that's like, hey, you guys aren't communicating correctly. I'm like, you know, that could be something we learn from them too. So if we can find a way where the structure supports us to, you know, and it's good that we also talk about vulnerabilities, trauma from like being in a system that may not have allowed us to truthfully like blossom as like cosmic, unlimited, unbounded humans.
I definitely feel that trauma, but around the, call it, event plan, like the scale piece of things. Because what really excited me, like I was so relieved coming into here, because I am much more comfortable in smaller groups, like much more comfortable, like planning an event where it's like more intimate. You're not, call it, like announcing to the world, like we're doing this thing. Like I feel a lot of friction around like, what do you announce to the world? Here's what we're doing, rather than like, you can just continue to evolve, like pilot. And next thing you know, things have evolved rapidly, and you haven't had to make this big giant announcement to the world. That's like, here, I've made this cake. Do you like it? And so coming into this, I was like, oh, wow, there's a way to like, this is a bigger, like a huge thing, like really like huge thing. And it's a way for me to get out of my worry of announce, because it's not a me, like it didn't feel like it, this was my thing. This felt like I am participating in this, but does that kind of make sense? And so what just happened though with Farmer's Footprint, actually, we wanted to pilot our high school stuff with adults and bring adults into this as well. And Tori, Indy, like wanted to share this with all of Farmer's Footprint, and was like, all right, we can blast this out to all of, like, which is thousands of people. And we're like, wait, hold up. Because we don't even know what we would be doing. Like, and where it ultimately landed is we're now doing a like 5-10 person pilot within the community. And it just feel like we're going, so that it feels right. It feels more right. But at the same time, in the back of our heads, we're like, oh, are we like, honestly, just like too scared to go big? And then at the same time though, we're like, well, no, but like, if we did go big, there are key questions that we don't know the answers to. And do we need to answer those in a smaller setting before we can go big? And I mean, where we landed was we're now doing smaller pilots, and it feels more comfortable, but it is a voice in the back of our head of like, all right, like, were we just scared? The myth we've told ourselves is no, before we can go big, there are key questions we need to answer. And now we've designed something that helps us answer those questions, but the funding picture of that is unclear right now. And so that's friction that we know exists, of like, how does this get funded? Like, we feel way more comfortable with the smaller scale. We know that this building block is necessary to help us grow, but the funding picture of how that works, we don't know yet. And it kind of feels like this is in a similar place.
Tizzle, what do you need? What do you feel you need to feel like you own this?
It's interesting putting it in that way because similar to kind of what Adam and Mick were saying, it's not like a sovereign, like I own this, right? I feel like I'm in a co-op or co-op. Like this feels like a co-op to me where we all have a stake in this and we're all contributing our energy, our resources, our knowledge to have this like really powerful thing come together. And you know, it's just interesting to hear like so many of us within this call have had this vision of having an alternative school. You know, I just shared with Charlie the vision that I wrote and I've had, right, since like I forgot when I wrote it, like back in October. And it's like I think Mick was saying, like, I don't see an end, you know, like I've had my chart read. I know that I'm going to be a part of something where it's going to be created and I won't get to see like the full fruits of its labor, but it's going to be a very powerful contribution to the world, the collective. And this feels like that's what this is.
Tizzle, you accidentally muted. Tizzle.
I feel seen. I feel like this is home. I feel like this is the tribe. Like this is, I mean, yes, we're all, you know, educators who are entrepreneurs, who are healers, who are also seers and visionaries. And to finally be in a space like this after 39 years, it's like, oh, yes. I stuck that shit out and like I found y'all. Yes. So for me, it's like, oh, I'm in this. And the fact that I'm on my way out of the college system, like I'm still on the guerrilla mode, but like after I get through these 2 semesters with my art education progression students, I'm out because it's the same thing. People are just paying thousands, tens of thousands of dollars for the same bullshit that we're trying to resist and like change from the K through 12 or TK through 12, excuse me, right? Like it's, so for me, there's not, you know, like 5-year plan, like, okay, 5-year plan, I'm gonna be in Ghana pitching this same thing. Like, I mean, not literally, but like that, like that's in my mind, like, oh, it's gonna be like, where's the next place that we're bringing this to is like my vision. And it's just like I was sharing, you know, like in video games when like Driver, for anyone who's ever played Driver, right? The ghost car. I have been following ghost cars for so long, training for this. But now we're in the car, y'all, and we're dodging cops, okay? We're like doing all the things. That's what this feels like for me. Like I'm no longer in practice mode. Like I'm on the heist. Like I'm in it. And I'm down for that because that's what this is about. This is what I have been doing solo, right? Indy, like you're saying, like that's why I left teaching, because it was literally me against Inglewood Unified School District. And I had so many parents and all these other things, but then having staff and teachers who were like, yeah, Tizzle. And then like, when I was like, okay, I'm about it. And they were like, oh shit, we didn't think you were really about it and that you were trying to take the principal down. Yes, I was. And then y'all like, and then I became Hester Prynne. So I get it. And so to be in this space, it's like, cool. I'm a I was gonna say wizard. I can't think of not a witch. What's the female? A sorceress, right? I'm a sorceress. We have wizards. We have witches. Okay. Like we have all the things here. And it's like, this is just the form in which we're showing up. But it's like Harry Potter or like X-Men. Dude, I mean, I don't know if I answered the question, But
You
sorry,
got me,
Gemini,
you got me
my
fired the
Gemini
fuck
moon is
up.
bumping right now. Okay, so that's my answer. Peace.
It was really funny that exercise, the 5-year exercise, is really to help people who, because a lot of times in partnership, people actually leave, and a lot of times people aren't willing to have the conversation on leaving. But with that said, it shows who showed up, right? Like, we're the ones who show up, who are still doing it, no matter whether or not we're given permission to do it, right? And that's the power behind, why we're coming in with like, hey, it's like soul mission we got to do. And that's why the idea of having our own businesses, so that if we chose to, like, let's say, take whatever we built and maybe we are not necessarily feel comfortable, safe in this space, hopefully not. But if that happens, you can take that with you. Like, we're not here to say, hey, no, like, whatever you build is ours. No, like, the idea is make sure you get it out there, whatever we can. We're supposed to be more like a group to like support ideas, to make sure that those ideas really come out, and I think we've seen too many, bad experiences get too much attention. And I think it's like we need together, as people who understand good intentions for good things, to like have more power together, right? Because like they definitely have a lot of money to do all the marketing they can. And for us, it's like we have to really kind of gather to really come together and be a force to reckon. So I'm excited to see like everyone kind of like showing up. And I think these conversations help us understand like, what is that minimum structure that allows us to still be like protected, but still like be unlimited in our like practice of expression, whatever that is. Don't let Miss Tizzle basically lose her energies, like what I'm trying to say.
The 5-year vision is actually, now that you put it that way, it's so helpful of a question. Because so Tizzle, you brought up you being in Ghana pitching this. When I close my eyes in 5 years, I don't envision me or you in Ghana. I envision in 5 years, I envision that it's someone that you and I have never ever met bringing this to Ghana, and within Ghana, people within Ghana that have never met bringing this into their communities. But what they're bringing there is going to evolve. And I guess when I envision like what's our role is that we've kind of built a central nervous system, a core communication structure. Because I guess because I'm counting on people sitting with alignment and friction, like whatever we start with is going to evolve. And so rather than being like, here's a playbook, here's this thing that you got to do, it is a joke. Like, we're going to look at whatever version 1.0 is and whatever things look like in 5 years, and we're going to laugh at what we thought was like, this is what we're going to spread. And so the system that we set up to allow, like, to help something just evolve and flourish without trying to maintain control over what that is. Like, it's what are the core building blocks, and like, what's a system that's going to help this continue to evolve within a community. So like, wherever pilot 1 is, how do we help that spawn into something? How do we help that continually improve within that community? But so yeah, in 5 years, like, I don't know what our role looks like, but I don't envision myself like, I envision us like planting seeds that then we're like a mushroom, the spores just go everywhere. And the goal is it's not to control, it's to make sure that there's that mycelial network that we've helped get going, and it's going to continue to expand the more people that participate in that. But
Awesome.
yeah.
So okay, there's a couple of notes, just to respect all of our time, and also to contemplate what our next steps we could do. Within me, I mean, this conversation, like, thank you guys. Like, I tell you guys that every week, this is therapy to me, right? Like, I cannot tell you how much this is saving my life, because the stuff I read and the stuff I hear, oh my gosh, from like anecdotal level, it's crazy. So, and especially, I don't know if you guys know, but my partner, Deanna, she quit being a pediatric ICU nurse because the rates of suicide with teenagers are going up and they're getting younger, right? And it's getting worse in the lower income communities, and nobody's doing anything about it. Like literally, they're actually, some of the nurses and doctors are ignoring patients because of their choices, of their bodily choices, right? So you're seeing there's an epidemic right now of like just selfishness and fear and anxiety. And so I really thank you guys for showing up. And with that being said, I feel we can rally around a pilot. And with that pilot, like Jackie, I feel with us, just us here, let alone other people that will start, like once we start getting on the boat and the boat's out on the ocean, people will be like, hey, I want to get on that boat. It looks awesome. That yacht looks great. Right now, they're like, oh, that yacht looks gross. Like nobody wants to jump on the yacht. But right now, you guys are seeing it. Like maybe at the end of June, is that a possibility? Do you guys, like, how do you guys feel about end of June doing a pilot on a farm or a gorilla thing in a park? What do you guys think about that? In LA adjacent.
I will scout and get the information for Kenneth Hahn specifically, because I did a melanated masquerade there last July. It was so amazing. Everyone showed up as their higher selves. And then later we had a mushroom ceremony. So like doing mushrooms dressed up as your higher self. It was so righteous. Anyway, I will do the work to check out Kenneth Hahn and then circle that back into the group to find out if there is anything, like if we have, say, 100 people, is there anything that we need to have awareness of? And I will take the lead on that and report back as soon as I get information.
Amazing. Thank you, Tizzle. Appreciate that. Jackie, do you think we could have a DAO, like, or some sort of like thing by then?
Yeah, so really like and putting a DAO together honestly costs about $600 through Wyoming. You don't have to have a bank account hooked up to it. It can be sheer governance. Everybody on the call, I would just like at some point want to get you guys set up with digital wallets. If you don't have one already, just make sure you're familiar with handling tokens, that kind of stuff. The only thing I'm dicey on, and it doesn't matter to me or not if I'm there in LA or not, that's the only thing for me. Like I'm totally down to remotely help and be the DAO advisor and do like that. That would be how I could show up the best for you guys, honestly. I don't know if I would physically be able to be in LA. I would love to. But things are real. I'm just flowing right now with where things are going. But I really like the idea of developing some type of structure. And I've been a fan of Farmer's Footprint for a really long time as well. And like Farm to Fork is my dream for the blockchain. It's what's inspired me this whole time. So I would be really interested in trying to like replicate what you guys are doing in LA at a farm, like here in Buffalo, because Indy, like you, I just see the events that just happened in Buffalo like a week ago. We've already forgotten about it. We've already moved on to things that are dominating the media that aren't the fact that 10 Black people were just gunned down and killed, and like, whatever, we'll just move on because this is about gun rights and everything else. So we really need like activities everywhere that can get people together and supported and all of those things. So yeah, that's just my thought there. Probably
Thank you for bringing that up too, Jackie, and to honor like all those people that lost their lives and everybody who's affected now. I mean, anybody who's been oppressed or just the feeling of not having safety. This is, a big reason why we're doing this too, is to share, self-defense and sovereignty and self-care, because that's probably the best way to resist violence and resist hate and ignorance, is actually to be empowered. And so that's a big part of what we're doing here, and to be proactive about it. So thank you for bringing that into space. What do you think, Mick? Is the end of June? Can you do something like that? Would that give you a few weeks out when you get out of school?
Yeah, that would help for sure. Yeah, and I could also kind of I didn't write to Andrea yet at the birdhouse, but I'm I don't know. I mean, that they have a capacity of 40 people there, so that would be definitely like the small pilot version if we did it there. Kennethon sounds awesome too for like a larger group or small group actually. So yeah, I won't. I was about to say we were gonna reschedule for maybe like August with them, but I could write back to her and say end of June is a possibility for us too.
And throw that out there because that end of June also like allows me to reach out to people like Mark, who's come out here before. Mark took us to this farm that's kind of like in limbo right now in Malibu, and it's a huge farm actually right near the ocean. And so that's a possibility, and that they might have a different structure in mind for us to go there, and it's a regenerative project too. My only caveat with Birdhouse, Mick, is that we can't make noise. And if you guys know me at all, that's already going to be an issue.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Rules? Come on, bro.
I mean, it would be good to also do like next time you think about like what is it that we want the prototype to do, right? The intention behind the prototype, so that we are, we know kind of what is it that we want to focus on, and then build something around that is the minimum, so that we don't overthink, like the idea of a big production, right? Like, how do we scope things down, but still get like what is it that we were still trying to have a conversation on, was like really like the biggest experiment is astrology as a backbone of education. Is like, can that make that happen? Can we make them feel like superheroes by the time they walk out, like be proud of who they are? And I think that would be like, and breaking that down, like what that looks like would really, kind of hone in on like the best place you can go, kind of eventually go, hey, the beach is a great place for water and energy or something like that,
That's where I'm feeling right now, is because when we talk about a pilot and we are throwing out, to me, feels like random numbers, like 20, 40, 100. I don't, if there are certain questions that we're trying to answer that we can say, and even around like experience design of like, here's, in order to have X number of people, or in order to have a kind of place-based experience where people are collecting eggs, well, how many people do we need to test this? Or if we want to learn how to have 2 tracks going at the same time, well, we need enough people to fill 2 play spaces going at the same time. And that would be a helpful conversation for me, is whether it's next week or after that, for us to talk about like what are like, I want to test this next, I want to test this at the event, I want to test this, because maybe we need 1 classroom of students, and that's what we actually like. And then all you need is a pioneer, right? Like, I don't know if you've seen that video of the person dancing, and it's the first person dancing.
Yeah.
Right.
One person is crazy, second person he's a follower, third person is a movement. Yeah.
And we're looking, so we want to create a movement, but we need to find 1 person who's crazy enough to say yes to what we're saying. And then the second person that's crazy enough to say yes, we already found her, and her name's Jackie. And she takes that to Buffalo. And then next thing we know, we have the third person who comes, and that's the spores of the mushroom spread. But
so that makes it critical for us to share that document. So we'll share that with everybody and get like a document going, like Saleha said, was getting a document started that shares our strengths and what we like, our strengths, and also kind of like, like what we're bringing to the table, what kind of what role we might already be interested in kind of navigating for now, to start with, as we've been sharing more and more and diving deeper. Obviously there's some like things that are crystallizing through this conversation as well. So everybody feels good about piloting something in June. Okay, that helps me focus now, because I've been hesitant to reach out to high school communities that I know. Like I volunteer with some in LA. So now if we have that, it again gives me some, okay, at least I can reach out and start to build that energy and inertia. Is there anything else I'm missing, or anything else, any other concerns that y'all have?
Well, we should probably get to like a date to because if we're like in 2 months out, then definitely a date to finalize to like get everybody focused on that date.
What about the 25th weekend?
What day?
25th weekend.
Yeah.
June 25th.
I have to run, but yes, that is,
Okay.
that works for me. That 25th weekend is actually like the only weekend that I could do.
Okay.
But otherwise, June 15th through like the 29th,
Okay.
I'm flexible.
Sweet.
Yeah, June
Adam,
9th. Yeah, this was lovely. I was vibing way too hard with you guys, and yeah, but lots of love to everybody.
Adam,
Yeah.
have a good day, man. Give your wife
Yeah.
our love and everything. Your baby too. Sing for the baby for us.
Yep, we got a singing bowl. Can I play this for you before I go?
Yeah, yeah.
So Indy was saying that we need to get a singing bowl for our baby. And what was awesome is we just went and visited Allie's family, and we were gifted this Tibetan singing bowl. And we're gonna vibe and I'm gonna roll. But yeah.
You know, the AI of Zoom doesn't like these vibrations. That's why it's the automatic thing feature on there. Isn't that
Wait,
crazy?
could you not hear that?
So Zoom cancels these like low frequency and high
Oh.
frequency sounds. Yeah.
Well,
Did they censor bandwidth now? Oh my gosh. What? Did they just censor vibration on us? Oh my gosh. Lo, we need to have a talk.
You gotta pay for it. You gotta pay for it, Charlie.
The censorship's crazy.
There's a paywall. There's a paywall.
dang. Well,
They synthesized that and toned it down. Oh man.
Indy, thank you for speaking that into the universe, because that made it happen.
Oh man, I love that, brother. Thank you. Thank you for welcoming the magic. Thank you.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Peace. Be well.
Bye.
Okay, so question, you guys. Also, something that's been brought into my attention is these Sunday meetings are great and all, and I love seeing y'all, but some people can't make it on Sundays like this. And maybe some of us are busy on Sundays and we can't make it. Can we have an alternative like office hours day during the week? What would be ideal for all of us that are here right now for that? It could be just like an office hours where like Charlie and I will be there, or like one of us will be there.
Tuesday nights, Thursday nights on weekdays for me. If we were to do nights.
Tuesday or Thursday nights. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean Central Time too, so you know.
Tuesday, Thursday evenings, nice. And maybe Jackie, we could even start like maybe that's like one of those nights is also where we start with some of the DAO stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask too. So if you guys do want to focus on the LA event, would forming an online community injunction too much? Hold off on that. What are our thoughts? Because I can start helping put infrastructure together. I don't want to distract or.
I feel there are some like Charlie, I have a problem with Discord. Like I love Discord, but I have like some issues with their like morality.
I hate Discord. We could do Slack or anything else.
Yeah, I like Slack. I'm good with Slack too. I've used Slack.
And also to think about like a discussion thing aspect of the social media platform, I definitely think that's something we can aim for. But for starters, we can start with some sort of like online educational platform that you get badges and currency on, and there's a lot that you can plug into cryptocurrency. So we could dive into that.
Okay.
Thank you, Saleha. Be well.
So-
Much love.
So Jackie, were you asking whether or not we wanted to have this DAO ready for June for the event, or?
And how, just if you guys were still interested in incorporating NFTs for June.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think it's. I think we should
Feasible.
probably hold that off. Yeah, to
Okay.
give us all more time to kind of also study it and learn it. I like to learn the full process too, so that if we can even convert it, like how quickly can we convert one in a day, you know, just because I'd like to go through the process myself, but not push for that. Because then that means we need computers there. And so I don't want us to be limited that we would need like a lot of computers at the location.
It's a lot. Okay, cool. I have some ideas. I'll just put them on paper and share them in the WhatsApp. I think that would be the best use of everyone's time. So, but
Yeah.
I hear you. I see what everyone's got going on, and I'm sorry I've been in and out, but I appreciate you guys always welcoming me every time I do show up, and you're just a wonderful group of human beings, and I learn a lot, and I'm just very appreciative of this space.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think Indy, like doing something also online to keep us communicating through the week as we have stuff to share and pin, so that we can keep communicating throughout the week and not wait till like these days to like dump a whole bunch of stuff, you know, in 1 hour.
Yeah, Slack can flow with that. And NFT question too, Jackie, something that's popping up for me is, you know, if we have these stamps and these written out natal charts, you know, a picture of that, a digital copy, a scan of that could be also just throwing that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Right. Or what's this? What mix is? I might be able to come on Tuesday evening, although I don't leave work until 6 on Tuesday. So make it have to be like 7 for you, huh? Probably.
Yeah, and Thursdays sort of similar. Those are like my heavy after school days actually. So
Oh shit.
Yeah,
So
but
At
there's-
least at least maybe we can experiment with like maybe this Tuesday, and I can invite some of the parents and maybe potential teenagers. This, you know, does that work, or what do you think?
that sounds
Charlie-
nice.
Wait, so you're just talking about like having more of the parents and students on Tuesday?
Or not, because I was thinking it'd be good to have Mark on so we could talk about the place in Malibu, and if that's something we can use on the 25th weekend.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
probably the next meeting should really focus in on venue. Yeah, I agree.
we need to solidify that for sure.
Mhm.
If we did Tuesday at 7, Jackie, that's 10 for you. Is that okay?
Oh man, Web3 life, you know, I'm up all the time. I don't sleep anymore. I can try, but honestly, I think you guys are going to be really focused on like those details of the land stuff. And what's cool on my end of things too is like actually once you get the beta and proto out, like that's when I can start taking the actual data to figure out like, okay, this is a loose structure that made sense. Like, because even when you start getting into like, I've never educated in a formal way. So even I know teachers have like these lesson plans and things, and that's actually kind of cool to think about translating into like an NFT system that makes sense of like how things get rewarded and how things get assessed and those types of things. But I think, yeah, I'm going to keep showing up for you guys just to observe and report in a little bit of a way, but I think I'll probably become more important as this formalizes later on or as we move through it.
Yeah. And Jackie, I would love to also like get like Hearthstone with you on like an NFT for like the Herbo cards, like the, you know, that I'm building to just see like how would I convert it so that it makes sense to be usable, right? Like something that's valuable for people, you know, in the NFT world.
And I want to do NFTs of laughter.
Yeah.
Everybody
yeah.
wants
Either
laughter
record
NFTs
the
would
best
be great.
laughter. Yeah. Like a laughter card, and then like you hear like the best laughter. Yeah, that would be awesome.
So I'll just share this really quickly. I know we've been talking for a while, but I just recently became an educator with the Digital Asset Council of Financial Professionals. So I'm an NFT expert now. The old white guys have approved me. I got my stamp of approval. So, but anyway, on top of that, like everything you're all saying, like I see so much light, and we talk about gifts and talents, and how I really see NFTs and token economies as we have a new medium to express everything. You know, the printing press has just exploded all over the metaverse, and everybody gets to put their block on the blockchain and whatever. So what I would really love to do is empower all of you to be the educators you are in your lane that can plant seeds everywhere, that can, you know, it's all such a self-sustaining ecosystem at the end of the day. And you guys are the humans like I want to wield this technology with. So I'm down to just do it co-collaboratively, and the the ways that make the most sense to you individually and collectively in a DAO. Yeah, so that's it.
Great, thank you. Cool.
All right. So see you guys on Tuesday.
Yeah, so Tuesday, you said 7 Pacific?
Pacific.
Pacific. Okay, sounds good. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Jackie. Bye, Mick. Bye, Tizzle. Thank you. Bye.